Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Flying Pig United. Back again with another show, another transfer update. We've got plenty to talk about. Griffo, how you doing?
I am good. I am quite hot in the UK right now, but I'm good to go for this show.
Well, I'm always hot as well in the UK. Thunder, lightning, boiling, getting drenched coming from my car to my house. Typical Manchester weather. Jarvis, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. The weather is nice in Norway too. Not as warm as you guys has it, but it's like 20 degrees outside, a little bit sunny. I went to the bowling with the kids today, and
Mm.
afterwards we went to Burger King. So now I'm full.
Who
Oh,
won
sounds
the
like you had a
bowling?
lovely time.
Hmm?
Who won the
Say-
bowling?
Well, of course, Big Daddy G won, but the kids are doing well. They are doing well, but they're so small, so they play with what do you call it?
Oh, the ramp
The
thing.
fence, yeah,
Or
the
the
ramp on the
Oh
side.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, but it's good fun. It's good fun.
Mhm.
That's good.
We'll say hello to some people in the chat and then we'll get going with some latest transfer news. Hey Jay Gill, thanks for coming in. Hope you are well. Hey there, Randon Lewis, thanks for coming in. Hope you are well. Hey there, Mumbeeb, hope you're well. Thanks for coming in. And Flying Pig will thank you for all the love as well. He really appreciates everybody's love and support. Madhouse is in the chat. Always good to see you, Madhouse. Will it be this Friday? No, probably not. But
Who knows?
oh, you never know. Great to see stream elements, bots running as always. Avenger always in the chat. Good to see you, Avenger. Stay Gold, thanks for coming in. Stay Gold, thanks for coming in. Burbot, thank you as well, Burbot, for coming into the chat. And hey there, Niall Kane, and everyone else who's in the chat. Good, everyone, to see you all. Thank you very, very much. So we'll go on to the latest. Well, the one where everyone's talking about, basically. Mason Mount, to Manchester United. Let's just say, and it's just the same old, isn't it? Every single year, we just get too attached on signing somebody, make too many bids. The same happened with De Jong this year. This year it's Mason Mount. Chelsea's rejected the third bid. And Manchester United have said they're not putting in any further bids, but they will leave the current bid on the table for 55 million plus an extra 5 million add-on. What's your thoughts on the current situation with Mason Mount, Jarvis?
Yeah, I think we are handling the situation really well. Actually, that we are pulling out from the after the third bit. We say to Chelsea, take it or leave it. And as we speak, they are just waiting, and we will see. But I heard that it was Ten Hag who pulled the plug on this one and said enough is enough. And I think that's a wise move because, as we know, Chelsea have to sell their players because they have bought so many players. It's about 600 millions, as I can recollect, and they are selling players east, west, north, and south at the moment. And they're selling with big loss. Koulibaly, they bought him for 30 millions. Now they're selling him for, I think was it 13 or 17 or something. So they are basically losing out all the time. But they need to balance the books and the FFP because Chelsea knows they have been punished before for breaking the FFP rules, and it might happen again if they don't get their players sold. So I think it's a wise move just to wait and wait for them to come to us. And next time we should just say, no, forget it. We'll give you 45.
What's your thoughts, Griffo?
Similar to that to Jarvis, to be perfectly honest. I think 55 is probably the maximum I would go to. I'm glad that United have actually done a bit of sense in the transfer market and gone, this is what we're sticking to, take it or leave it, as Jarvis said. Mason Mount's not like going to be our marquee signing of the summer, hopefully. While if we did it with Frankie de Jong last summer, it's sort of a bit different because Frankie de Jong would be that mega signing. Yeah. But Mason Mount's not the end of the world. We can go and get something else, someone else. Who, I don't know, but we will cope without Mason Mount. I think Chelsea's need to sell him is greater than our need for him. And I think that in the end will push Chelsea to accept our bid, 55 million. I just hope Man United stay with their word and say they're not going to go any further than 55 million.
Mhm.
And I don't see any reason why they would, all things
Mhm.
considered. So, yeah,
We
it's similar with that.
We need to look at it. Chelsea need us before we need Chelsea, realistically. It's quite funny because a lot of Chelsea fans are trying to take the mick, saying, "Oh, Man United can't afford Mason Mount." It's being sensible here at the end of the day, because you look at the amount we paid for players. You look at Maguire, Pogba, all the players we have signed over the years are not worth the amount of money that we have actually paid for them. And then Mason Mount, 1 year left on his contract. He's set at 55 plus 5. I'd say probably the most reasonable that they can get. Because that 55 million automatically is going to be profit. Because they've got Mason Mount from the academy. So they know 55 million of that is profit. I just think for me I think Man United has also probably looked at, for instance, the other players who they've sold, Kovacic for £25 million, who's also on a 1 year deal. And personally, for me, I think Kovacic is a great midfielder. So I think Manchester United has personally done the right thing. They're saying, right, we're not ones to be messed around anymore in this transfer window. Maybe in the past, we ain't now. So you're not. We'll talk to you face to face, because I think that's what they are going to be looking at doing, but nothing more, because we're not going to be like interested kind of thing. But Kate Cadet, thank you so much for the super chat. Kate Cadet said, never mind the transfer window. I want to know what makes Griffo a better GTA racer than Pigget. If you want to explain that, Griffo.
It's his thumbs. They're quicker than Pig, you know. Every single race, I'm beating him, and he can't handle it. You know, we haven't seen him on GTA for a very, very, very long time. So he's running away.
Very nice.
Quality. Thanks again, Kate Cadet, for the £5 super chat. There is quite a few midfielders who we are linked to now. Caicedo, Gravenberch. I also want people in the chat to let me know who they want as their ideal midfielder. But if we didn't get Mason Mount, who would you personally sign, Griffo, out of the ones who are linked?
Because the story sort of broke, there was a lot of stuff breaking last night regarding Mount and Caicedo, wasn't it? It was a lot of cross wires. And I saw the one report that said Caicedo was going to be valued at 80 million. And I thought, I would really want Caicedo at United, but I think 80 million is probably a little bit too much, given the circumstance that we're currently in, where we need a striker and probably a goalkeeper more than Caicedo. Because say if we have a 170 mil budget, so to speak, we've just used 80 of that, and we only have 90 left for a world-class striker that we need, and probably a world-class goalkeeper if De Gea goes. So, and then again, on top of that, we might need a second midfielder, maybe another backup centre-back if we're lucky. So, as much as I'd like Caicedo, I think in the circumstance we're in, I think it would be a wrong move. I might be in the minority there, because I know a lot of people are big fans of Caicedo. Obviously, not to mention that 2 years ago we could have signed him for 5 million and then walked away from that deal. So, you know, and then we can go and sign him for 80. That just sums up this club and transfers. So it is difficult, isn't it? Because in terms of midfielder, I would put midfielder third in that priority positions behind striker and goalkeeper. So I think any more than 55, 60 mil, absolutely max for any midfielder that we're going to get, unless there's like an odd exception or something, which I don't see happening. So it's difficult. Gravenberch is a weird one because he's in and out of the Bayern team. It doesn't really look like it's clicked there. So it is difficult because there's a lot of good midfielders, but a lot of them are sort of taken up at the moment. So that's why my fingers are crossed to get this Mason Mount deal done. And then maybe we can go sign a slightly younger player that I saw Taylor Booth was linked. I don't know too much about him, but I know he's a young midfielder that maybe can come in and develop. Maybe a player that we could have signed with Caicedo 2 years ago. Maybe we can rewind that and bring it in with Taylor Booth. So maybe him, but it's looking bleak if we don't get Mount, to be honest. And I don't really want the club spending anything ridiculous like 80 or 85 mil on Caicedo personally.
Yeah, a few people have already got their thoughts in the chat. Simon has said Caicedo 100%. Raja V has also said Caicedo. Lucky Singer said let's place a bid on Caicedo. So's Duncan as well. Stay Gold has mentioned goalkeeper more important. I will probably argue that is spot on, to be honest, especially with the current situation with David De Gea. Lucky Singers also mentioned someone who is on a free, Rabiot. Would that be someone who you could potentially go for, Jarvis?
Yeah, Rabiot is a very sensible signing. As we know, we are on a string budget, somewhere in between 120 to 200 millions. We don't know, but that's the estimations. And as I see it, we need, as Griffo mentioned, we need a goalkeeper and we need a striker. Probably, if Martial goes, we need two strikers. So we are in a bit of a conundrum because we don't know where to spend our money, and we don't know if De Gea is going to re-sign his contract and stay, or if we need to use 50 million on Onana from Inter or another goalkeeper. So it's a good thing if we can get sorted some positions for free, and the Rabiot position will basically be a backup for Casemiro, because we know Casemiro, he can't play 60 games a season. And whenever our DM is out of the game, we see we are lacking the balance in the team. So basically, we need a good signing in DM. And Rabiot, yeah, maybe he's not the best DM in the world, but he's decent. He can do that role in a couple of games, come in, and he will give us squad depth. And so I would definitely take Rabiot on a free. And when you think about it, we will sort out our midfield if we get Mount and Rabiot for 50, 55 millions. And that will be a bargain in today's market. And then we have a lot of money to spend. And I think the big one is going to be strikers. I have a good feeling that we will get Kane for 100 million. We have to pay because Levy, he won't back down. And Kane, he want to go. So, okay, 100 million. But if we spend 50 on the midfield, we have 50 for Onana. Maybe we could magically out of thin air find some extra money and get Kim in, and then we have had a wonderful, good and an excellent transfer window. So for me, yeah, I would take Rabiot.
Hey, John, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, John.
Good to see you.
Good evening.
Sorry I'm late to the party.
It's
That's
fine.
okay.
It's fine. Berber has said that we should stick with De Gea, get Rabiot on a free, and focus on what cash we have on a marksman up top as a CM. Matthew has said we should be going all out for a player like Kimmich. It's a singing bang average player. That is the reason we're so far behind City and Arsenal. I'd absolutely love Kimmich. I don't get me wrong. I would absolutely love Kimmich.
Yeah.
Like, I think probably all four of us would absolutely love Kimmich at Man United. Steve has mentioned a very interesting one. Simons, because he was actually I believe, if I remember correctly, that he's supposed to be on a few Premier League clubs' radars, and he's got a buyback clause with PSG for 6 million. If I'm not mistaken on that?
I think, yeah, he's got a buyback. What it is, it's quite cheap. It might be 6 mil, but I know he's got a very cheap buyback with PSG.
I wanted to get your thoughts as well, John. Now you're here on what midfielder would you sign now with the current situation with Mason Mount if we were to get him?
First things first, I was just going to say that people seem to forget how far Manchester United need to go still further in terms of being able to compete for the top competitions alongside the top teams. We're sitting here talking about a transfer window and how Erik ten Hag can turn things around and whatnot. That turning thing around aspect of Manchester United was always never going to be easy. It was always going to be a mountain of all mountains to climb. We talk about there's a Man United tax. That, ladies and gentlemen, that shit is real. Like the idea of Manchester United being overcharged is real. And that unfortunately happened because of the years of poor management and literally a decade of just absolute just stupidity from the Manchester United upper management. Now, with that being said, us in this market right now, it's going to be difficult for us to sign anybody. It was already difficult as is. And then now it's going to be even more so considering the fact that we're in this takeover saga. And going back to your main question, who will we sign as a replacement? Honestly, at this point in time, my expectations are so low. If you're going to tell me when to get Rabiot, come, please. We'll take it. At this point in time, whoever it is, honestly, like my expectations are so low in terms of who we can move for in the market that I would, at this point, I'd be happy with Rabiot. You know, we talked about somebody like Frankie de Jong for a very, very long time. I love Frankie de Jong. I've shaken my bunda, my ass, however y'all want to hear it. I've shaken whatever I can shake for him to come to Man United. It's obviously not going. It's more on the side of not happening, but Frankie de Jong would absolutely be incredible. But at this point in time, my expectations are so damn low that I would just take somebody like Rabiot.
Mm-hmm. To be honest, though, Rabiot actually wasn't an unpopular opinion in the chat. A lot of people were actually saying about getting Rabiot. I just think for me is looking at Mason Mount, looking at Caicedo, or looking at Rabiot, they're all different types of midfielders, and then I'm kind of looking at it in a kind of way because this Manchester Sky Sports was doing like a comparison today of look at Caicedo compared to Mason Mount, goal, assist, chances created, stuff like that, and I just think yes. They are completely different players, completely different profiles. But then I also do think for me is if we're linked to two different types of midfielders, what is actually Manchester United's strategy of who they want midfield wise, first of all? And second of all, for me, my opinion is, do we really want Caicedo just because it's only just really come to the limelight now? Chelsea are interested and they don't want to sell Mason Mount.
I'll answer that. It's very, very easy. Whoever we bring in, it's obviously because of the limitations that we have. The only thing that's going to change with respect to Manchester United's strategy on the pitch is actually going to be the utilization of Bruno Fernandes. If we get somebody that's just completely all out attacking, we're obviously going to shape a little bit more in the 4-2-3. If I have my whiteboard, I show it to you. But as you guys, obviously the chat knows ball. Come on, this is the Flying Pig United community. We'd probably be playing more in a 4-2-3-1 shape, right? We'd probably have Casemiro in the deepest of the three, and Bruno would be tucked in a little bit more deeper with the most attacking signing going forward. But if we had somebody like, for example, Mason Mount, we would have shaped more in an inverted triangle with Bruno and Mason Mount sort of operating in that triangle with Casemiro at the single pivot. It really changes, and I think that's what I'm sort of hopeful for with respect to at least Erik ten Hag's strategy is that given the limitations, at least he's flexible on how he wants to progress this season. And I think. And I'm going to be completely honest, I've never been the biggest fan of Bruno Fernandes, only up until maybe this season. And I've absolutely fallen in love with him this season because of this past season, for what he's done for us. And he's going to continue to be that much important for us going forward with respect to the situation. He can be that sort of gel. Remember when Man United were we were taking on 20 shots, attempted shots, and just David De Gea was just saving us. And we were like, oh my goodness, thank God we're not sitting 7th in the table. Bruno Fernandes could be that sort of that welding point. He could be that welding point for Manchester United right now in this pivotal moment in this transition phase.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Here's a good question as well from Matthew. Is Sabitzer staying? From what I've been hearing, I don't know about you, Griffo. I haven't heard anything about it. I think he's probably going back to Bayern Munich.
Yeah, I think he's going back. I think both him and Weghorst are going back. It was only sort of that 6-month loan. It didn't really work out. Had a good few games here and there, didn't he? But that's when you can bring somebody like Rabiot in. You know, it's a good option to bring on a free. Yes, he's not this great player, and I think if Rabiot would have cost us transfer fee, then we probably wouldn't go for him. But the option is there to do free. It gets another body in that midfield in case we need it if there's injuries or maybe off the bench or in cup games to give people rests. So that's the free option because we can obviously didn't pay anything for Sabitzer because it was a loan and we don't pay anything for Rabiot. So that could be sort of not a straight swap directly, but in a sense a straight swap to get Rabiot in.
Mm-hmm. Talking about Bayern Munich as well, another club who was interested in Mason Mount was by Munich because Thomas Tuchel was a massive fan of the player. Do you think that could be a potential happen for Jarvis?
Yeah. I don't know. Bayern, they have so many midfielders and players in that position. And Bayern, they move like a good footballing organization, and everything they do is very well planned out. So I can't see that they are suddenly jumping the gun on Mason Mount just because United are interested in him. But then again, Mount and Tuchel, they have a bond from the time when they won the Champions League, and he was apparently one of Thomas Tuchel's favorites as a player. So it might happen, but I don't think so. I think Bayern. I have always admired Bayern because they have so many great players, and the thing are they are a well planned organization. As you know, we were speaking about Sabitzer. Why did they let Sabitzer go? He's a world class player. Yeah, because he's injury prone and they don't need him. And they did the same with Sebastian Schweinsteiger when we bought him. We thought we bought one of the best midfielders in the world, but then again he didn't work out. And Bayern always do this. So yeah, I don't think they are after Mount when you really think about it. But you never know.
There was a question here in the chat on how many players do you think are leaving Man United? To be honest, like I've seen people on social media going, look, sell this and this player for 60 million, and then if we buy this and this player, that means instead of spending 200 million, we've only spent 120 million. So you're seeing all sorts like that on social media. To be honest, I think it's hard of who we think is going to be sold because we've seen rumours about Scott, Maguire, Dean Henderson, and I think for me is like you're looking at like the Saudi league taking all of Chelsea's deadwood. Like, first of all, why can't they take our deadwood? I'd absolutely love if they take our deadwood first of all, but I actually don't know who would actually take the players we've got right now. Who do you think is going to probably be most likely to leave for you, John?
For me, I use this analogy all the time. People always ask me, John, this player needs to leave, this player needs to leave. And I tell them all the time that it's not going to be that easy. First of all, selling players. And this, people get upset at Chelsea fans and people get upset at Chelsea. If there's one thing that they're good at is they're good at selling players. And whether or not it's because their squad is bloated and whatever, and they have no sort of the United tax equivalent. Manchester United, I always explain using this example. I used to be a manager at a chicken shop, and we got taken over by this new sort of like this new president guy that came in, and he decided to change all of these things at once, and he just completely just washed out the house, and half of the staff was gone. And then the other half was like, nah, fuck this. I'm out. This is horrible. And they all left. I was a manager. I was working like 16-hour shifts, frying chicken, just getting oil all over my face. It was horrible. This is the same. It's the same thing. You can't flip. The staff that fast, and it's going to take time. With that being said, though, there are a couple of players that actually need to go no matter what, and I think Harry Maguire is at the top of that list. I think Harry Maguire, regardless of the amount that Manchester United are going to sort of take a loss on, we have to take the loss and move on as a club. As a club, we need to be healthier. That Harry Maguire that transfer stunk. As when we were linked with him, it stunk. And that's not to disrespect him at all. I think there's a good player in him, but we can't spend that kind of money on that kind of player with that profile. And I think every fan was sort of just kind of like pushing that aside, staying positive. Harry Maguire is just, whether he has as a future as a footballer or not, of course, I personally think he has a great future elsewhere. It's just that his time at Man United has come to an end, and Manchester United need to show that they are a club. They're a serious club. And players like Harry Maguire, if we're going to take an L and we're going to take losses, that's fine. We have to take that and just move on and sort of wash ourselves off of that. Scott McTominay is another great player that I think Manchester United can sort of step up and say, look, we can still sell players. I think 20, 30 mil, we could definitely get off of for a player like Scott McTominay. David De Gea's contract situation is also a problem. There's a plethora of players, but those two, Harry Maguire, at least for me, is sort of up there on that list.
Absolutely. Mr. K, like, honestly, Newcastle signing Tonali is an absolutely sensational signing. And it looks like that most likely they'll probably raid in the Italian league by the looks of it. But a lot of people are saying the exact same as what you're saying as well, John, about getting rid of Harry Maguire, top of the list. I Like Coffee, Newcastle fan, doesn't think that Newcastle will sign Scott McTominay now. And I think, especially knowing that they've signed Tanala, Jarvis, I think it's going to be very unlikely McTominay was to be going to Newcastle, firstly. And secondly, from what I've been hearing about Manchester United, is they don't want to put Scott McTominay in any swap deals because of him being a homegrown player. They'd make more money out of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Basically, when we sell a player who's not from our academy, we get about 70% of the transfer sum. But for McTominay and Henderson, we will get 100%. So McTominay is a good player to sell. Only negative is that we lose one from the homegrown rule. We need eight of them in a 21 25 man squad. So but I would sell McTominay, I would sell Fred, I would sell Maguire, I would even sell Sancho, to be honest, because I don't think he has sorry, John. I know you like Sancho, but I would even sell him because I think we have so many good youngsters that deserves a shot when you think about Aman and Pelestri. So and he hasn't worked well, and he's on 350k a week, and we could probably get a decent amount of money for him, 50-60 million at least. So and it will bring us a lot of money. So yeah, I would go for that signing if it was up to me.
Mm-hmm. Matthew has mentioned Manuel Ngate. He's actually gone to PSG now. It was basically a race with Chelsea wanting to sign him. Because I do watch sporting quite a lot, and I follow a lot of people who know a lot, like who are into the journalists in Portugal. And so basically, Chelsea was in the race to sign Ugarte, and then what happened then in the end is Chelsea didn't want to pay for his release clause, instead offered to buy so much of actual like the sport in the club and get Ugarte out of it. And Sporting's turned around and said, no, not a chance. And then a few days later, he went on his bike then to PSG. Is it a good move? Personally, probably not. But he would have been a fantastic move to have, personally, in my opinion. What about you, John? Do you think that could have been a good potential option?
Honestly speaking, right now, with respect to options and seriously, my mind is sort of just blank. Like, my focus honestly was the takeover, and that I was out here saying, let's just let the takeover happen as is because we have no control. At this point in time, Manchester United need to figure out who they can bring in for that's going to fit Erik ten Hag's sort of preference. And if we've been singing this whole time about the likes of Kim Min-jae, we've been singing about Mason Mount for God knows how long, and we're getting hijacked here left, right, and center. If we can't sign these players, I don't care. You can mention Ugarte, you can mention Tonali, you can mention all of these players. What's the point of it? You know what I mean? Manchester United fans are going to sit here during this preseason feeling like absolute dog poo-poo. And at this point in time, Manchester United just need to sort it out. Oh, apparently, there's reports. Have you guys had a chance to talk about the Mason Mount situation yet? I just feel like that saga is just another one of those, just like, ugh. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we spoke about it a little bit. Just want to say big up to Yassine. Thank you for subscribing onto the channel. Do you want to get your thoughts on the Mason Mount saga? I know we touched on it briefly before.
Oh no, I just kind of wanted to say that Manchester United need to show that they have balls, right? They need to step up and show that they're not here to be messed around, right? Yeah, Jarvis got it, you know, and cajones, sí, grandes cajones. You know what I'm saying? Like, they need to show that. And if Chelsea are going to continue to sort of, you know, act like this club that's gonna, you know, just dick us around, then we got to turn around and just be like, no, we should have done it after they rejected 45. We should have done it when they rejected 50 or whatever. And then now they're rejecting whatever our latest thing is. Like, we're already smearing poo on our face. We have to sort of step up and say, no, we can't be dicked around. You can't mess with us. We can't mess with us anymore. If we were like the sort of the quiet kid in school, We got to step up like, wham, you know what I'm saying? Bulked up, summer season, you know what I'm saying? 6 packs, you just pull up and say, you can't mess with us no more. And that's the same energy I have with Mason Mount. I like the player. I've always liked him. 12 months, he hasn't been great. But if he's not going to, he has to help us help him. You know what I mean? He's got to push for a transfer request, whatever it is. He's got to help us help him. But if he's going to sit there, obviously the rumor is that he wants to try and make things happen or whatever. But if Chelsea going to play hardball, then we're not here to play games. You know what I mean? And we are, and I just wanted to add that, like, Man United, the latest reports that we've walked out or something like that. If that's what it is, great. If Chelsea wants to meet up and whatever, they got to come. They got to send their representatives up to Manchester. Not even train. Y'all got to walk or take a bike. And then we're going to say it like this. All right. So now you want to talk. You know what I mean? We got to be able to show that we got balls.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, I think you're spot on about that, and I don't have a clue what Boys just said. They were saying on a different channel that it was 50 mil for Mount was a steal. I know we'll probably all have opinions on if it's a steal, is it not? But I do think for me I think Mason Mount, up to a certain degree, he has shown certain types of characteristic that he does want to join the club to do about the personal terms. He said he's not extending his contract. And I think you're looking at, for instance, Harry Kane's situation. You're looking at a Mason Mount situation. And I feel like both of the players' energies, for me, display 2 different types of reactions, in my personal opinion. So what do you think, Griffo?
Yeah, it's really hard to call. I believe, just going off Mason Mount for a second, I believe Gunkshi did what Gunkshi usually does and dropped a few gifted sponsor memberships in the chat a bit of a while ago. So big up Gunkshi if you did that. Yeah, it's a complete mess. Yeah, for me, I'll go back to what I said at the start. 55 mil is where the max I pay for Mason Mount. If not, do what, as John said, walk away, get someone else. It's not like Mason Mount is this gem that everyone wants and is the best at what he does. There's probably loads in Europe that we haven't discovered because our scouting is completely rubbish. There'll be them out there. We just need to do that little bit more effort and go look outside England, look at maybe Germany, Portugal. I know you're a big fan of the Portuguese league, Maisy. I know that probably there's a few midfielders in there that we can probably inquire about and maybe get on a cheaper deal. So yeah, 55, that's it. And I think as well, with the way this transfer window is going, we need to move quickly because all of the rivals around us are signing players. City have signed Kovacic and they're about to sign Guardiola, who of course is one of the best centre-backs probably in the world. And that just adds to a treble-winning side. Chelsea, of course, signed that Nicholas Jackson striker. And, of course, Nkunku's now come in. Even Tottenham have signed a goalkeeper and are looking at other players. Liverpool have signed McAllister. Tonali's gone to Newcastle. And Arsenal have going to sign Timber, maybe Rice as well. So everyone is strengthening. At one point, Man United are going to have to react and do something. And I think if we spend too long on the Mount deal, it's just reminiscent of what we did a couple summers ago with Sancho, what we did last summer with De Jong. We're fixated on one player, and while to a certain extent you can reason with why we spent so long on Sancho and De Jong because they were better players than Mount, here I think if we don't come to a resolution by next week, we just need to walk away. And then if Chelsea come back and say no, please, we didn't mean it, and then hopefully we can get a deal done. But it's now delaying our transfer window because Man United struggled to do more than one deal at one time. It's a mess. So I'd say next week 55 mil. Those are the 2 upper brackets I'd say, and then we go from there. But God knows what happens with this football club.
Yeah, a lot of great points there, Griffo. But I just want to add, when it comes to Mount, he has one attribute that no one never mentions, and that is he can play a lot of games. And on a high consistent level, he hardly never gets injured. So when you think about it from Ten Hag's perspective, having a player like that in your squad, in our phase now, we're in a build-up phase for the next level. Having a player like Mount will be incredible because he would almost be like a Bruno number 2. He can play 60 games and at a high consistent level, and that will be great because we need players like that because we have a thin squad. And we will have it when the window is closed also because we know how we move in the window. So Mount will probably be one excellent piece in the jigsaw, and we need a player like him. So I understand why Ten Hag wants him. If it's worth 55 or 60 million with 1 year left on his contract, and we know that Chelsea needs to sell, that's another discussion. But Mount as a player would be a great attribute to our squad.
I think that's a great point, because if you think back, little warning, I'm going to reference something nobody likes, but Liverpool winning the league a few years ago, they didn't have hardly any injuries. Man City, when they did the run-in for the treble, had hardly any injuries, and if they did, they had maybe a week or so, and they had replacements there. So I think that is a very underrated factor, is the amount of players that get injured. You look at our squad, Shaw gets injured quite a lot. Martinez had that injury. Varane's very injury prone. I think Dallow's quite injury prone. Fred can pick up knocks here and there. Martial seems to be never fit. And Bruno seems to be the only one that is consistently, of the outfield players, that actually remains fit for the majority of the season. Obviously, injuries can happen to anybody if a crunching tackle comes in or whatever. A bit like Andy Cowell and Christian Eriksen in the FA Cup. But players like that are very, very underrated. And it's a very good point from Jarvis, because it is a factor that we should be considering. It's not by chance that Man City players didn't get injured in their running, or Liverpool when they won the league, those players didn't get injured. It's not a fluke, because the scouting is there. And it comes back to the comparison of, would you rather have an 8 out of 10 player who only plays half the games in the season, or would you rather have a 7 out of 10 player that plays the majority of the games? You'd probably rather have the 7 out of 10, because it's more consistent, you get more out of him. So I think it's a great point, and Mount seems to be that sort of player that doesn't get injured. And we need players like that, especially in the midfield.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think for me, especially at time to time, it felt like our midfield was a little bit dead. Like, especially when you see Bruno Fernandes won't play, and I think, guys, where is the life in this midfield? Like, who's giving this energy? Who's giving the creating? There's no one there who can do that at Man United. There's no Bruno Fernandes. We was hoping Donny would be the Bruno. Donny didn't become the Bruno. We was hoping Sabitzer would be the Bruno. Sabitzer wasn't the Bruno. And I think for me is, out of the players who were there, who's linked, Mason Mount is probably going to be the nearest possible person to that. Or, who Raja has mentioned in the chat, James Maddison. I think he could be a potential good shout as someone who could be there as another option for Manchester United.
You look at the assists that we get in this team. Bruno is that main output, and then beyond that, you're looking at who's our second best output. You're probably looking at left back, and you're thinking Luke Shaw. Then you're thinking third best output. You're probably looking at the bench and Garnacho, because our wingers of Rashford and Anthony don't really get assists, because they're sort of selfish players that want to take men on and have shots. While there's nothing in the midfield. Eriksen didn't really bring as many assists as we all thought he was going to when he came in last summer. Casemiro, I think Casemiro got more goals and assists than I was expecting when he came in, but we can't rely on a defensive midfielder to do that. So we do need more creative outputs. And again, that's where Mason Mount can come in. Obviously, didn't have the best season last season. We all know that. But you look at previous seasons, I believe his assist was the one for Kai Havertz in the Champions League final 2021. So he really is a player that can get assists. And you look beyond last season, in previous seasons when he was at Derby, obviously that's a completely different story because it's lower league, but when he came through with Chelsea and he was developing, he was still getting the assists. So we do need a player like that in the midfield to sort of make up for the assists that we thought maybe Eriksen and Fred and McTominay should be getting, which unfortunately they didn't.
Yassine, I don't want to think about both Tonali and Maddison in one window for Newcastle. I think that would be pretty scary, if you want me to be honest. Berber has mentioned Tielemans as an option. I don't know. I think by my reaction, I'm not overly impressed with Tielemans, but
isn't he gone to Aston Villa? Or was
he has, hasn't he? He has gone
I'm
to
pretty
Villa.
sure he's confirmed, or it's either confirmed or near enough confirmed. So I wouldn't have really wanted him anyway, to be honest. He's a good player, but I think there's probably an attitude problem here. You can see in that final few games for Leicester when they were near the relegation and end up getting relegated, he just didn't want to be there at all and didn't put any effort in. we've had that many problem for years at United. You know, you look at midfielders we've had in the past. I think Paul Pogba was a big example of that. Some games he was really on it, some games he wasn't on it and didn't care. So I think we'll need to move away from that. And Tielemans is sort of another player that sends us backwards in terms of that. Don't worry, he's a good player, but I think there's better players out there that will bring less problems.
Yeah. Is a point here. If Garnacho gets the 7th shirt, who in everyone's opinion should be captain? I think for me, I want to discuss both Garnacho getting the 7 and the captaincy actually, just because a lot of people are all for Garnacho getting the 7. Personally, for me, I think it's a little bit too soon. I can understand why they want him as the 7, but I want to give him one more season to properly get into that first team, get some more minutes under his belt. Just because I think right at this moment in time, as much as he's showing the characteristic, he's showing the fight, he's showing the energy, he's showing the passion, I just think not just yet. I understand Ronaldo got it so young, but I just think at the moment, not now. But captain for me, all day, every day, Bruno Fernandes. I think there's no other, realistically, right now, there's no other person who I'd give it to. John, Garnacho 7 next season, captain said keep it as Bruno or someone else?
Two-part answer in that one. The first things first, with respect to Garnacho, I'm with you on that. Maisy. I also think it's a little bit too early. But on the other hand, if we're playing devil's advocate here, there are not so early players that have worn that number 7 shirt since arriving to Man United, and it's just been absolute stinkers. We're talking about Piano playing Alexis Sanchez. We're talking about even Memphis Depay when he was on it for a minute and he just disappeared. We're talking about Antonio Valencia, who took on that number. It didn't work out. We've given that number 7 shirt to every profile of player. Somebody who was joined Man United started growing well. Somebody who's a superstar supposedly came to join Man United, absolutely stunk the bed. I forgot about even Angel Di Maria. Like, that number 7 shirt has become voodoo. So if we're looking at it from the other side of the sort of argument, maybe just giving it to somebody like Garnacho, who is actually on the rising star sort of profile, somebody that's giving hope to Manchester United. Why not? You know what I mean? Why not? I'm not for it right now because I think we can even take that number 7 as an opportunity to sort of sell it to other players out there if they're interested. Like, hey, you know, you're this kind of player. We think you, if we show them that, like, hey, we think you're this great profile of a player, we trust in your ability, whatever, we'll give you the number 7. It could be a selling sort of opportunity, but I'm also not against it. Like, I would prefer it if we just left that thing alone for a minute, but I still wouldn't be mad if we gave it to Garnacho. I think he deserves it, if anything. And your second question was the captaincy. I'm infamous within my community for saying that I don't think Bruno Fernandes should be captain. I always call Bruno Fernandes as the number 1 vice captain. When you're in a football pitch or when you're in a football team, there is that captain who sort of exhibits that leadership presence without even saying a word. And then when he speaks, you listen. Bruno Fernandes is the guy who speaks 1,000 words a minute. You know what I mean? Those are the kind of captains that it's just a personal preference thing. I just feel like they would be the best vice captains. Like, the captains are the ones who sort of, you know, sit back, watch it sort of play out, and then when he needs to speak, he speaks. Bruno Fernandes is more of like the micromanager, and I think that's why he'd be a much better vice captain. I would give the captaincy to somebody like Casemiro. Perfect for me. I just feel like he's more of a presence in that respect. Even Varane, if anything, but Varane is not really that much of the speaking sort of player. I'd give it to either Casemiro or even Marcus Rashford. But again, same like before, if Bruno Fernandes receives that captaincy, I wouldn't be mad at all. I'd be all for it. I just personally speaking, I would think he's like, you know, the true vice president sort of type of thing.
Stephanie has mentioned in the chat about Martinez as the captain. And I think that is another great shout. Martinez as the captain.
Exactly.
Rather, realistically, who is a better fit than Garnacho as the captain? Garnacho, definitely not captain, rather. Not at all. Not at this moment in time. No. Way too young to be a captain. What about Jarvis, Griffo, captain? Who would you want as the captain at Man United?
Yeah, you go first, Griffo.
I couldn't care, to be perfectly honest with you. I think, and it's the same with the number 7. I know it's a bit wrong of me considering because the number 7 has such a big history at United, but I just think it's a shirt number, and at most it's going to add a little bit of pressure. But it's not like this for some United fans it is the holy grail. But at the same time, it's a shirt number at the end of the day. I don't think we should be looking too much into it. But as terms of captain, we've got leaders on the pitch. A few years ago, we had no leaders. Now we have Martinez, as Stephanie says. As John said, we got Casemiro. It's not like we give this captain's armband to one person and everyone else shuts up. You know, we've got so many leaders around the pitch now. I don't think it really matters who really puts the captain's armband on at the end of the day, because I think Bruno seems to be the one that the future is with him as the captain, and he sort of goes up to the referees the most and sort of represents United the most in that regard. So I think I would probably keep it with Bruno, but I think it doesn't really matter because we have these Casemiros and these Martinezes and other leaders who are vocal, who go up to the ref and question stuff. So I don't really think, like, Gundogan was the Man City captain. And no one really cares about that because he just gets on with it. And at the end of the day, there's so many teams who, like Odegaard is the captain at Arsenal. You don't hear anything about that. So a good captain is one that just doesn't garner conversation and just gets on with it. And I think Bruno is probably, even though he generates a lot of conversation amongst this fan base and all the other fan bases, I think he would be the best captain. But to be honest, stick on any one of those like vocals like Casemiro or Martinez. You know, I don't really have a massive problem with it being on Maguire, to be perfectly honest. Obviously, in an ideal world, I don't want it on Maguire, but I don't have that big a problem with it being on him. But to go forward, I think I do think it will be Bruno.
Mm-hmm. Thank you again as well, Kate Cadet, for the £2 super chat. Griffo for 7 shirt isn't just a number, he says.
Yeah, no, I get that. I probably phrased that wrong, but I think there is a history, and if you give a number 7 shirt to a youngster like Garnacho, who knows a lot about Man United, he will know that history. He'll know that Ronaldo's worn it. Of course, he trained with Ronaldo when Ronaldo was here at United. He knows all the legends in the past that have worn that 7, and it will just add to the pressure. So there's that regard. While if he as a player just thinks, oh, it's just another number, maybe that will remove that sort of stress, remove that sort of anxiousness that he might have with the number 7, and can just get on with his game. So I've never been the biggest fan of kit numbers. I understand 7's a big number for some clubs, especially Man United, but I don't think it's as deep as some people make out for it to be.
Mm-hmm. Jarvis, Captain Sir.
Yeah, first of all, I'm an old man. I'm 45 years old. I have played football since I think I was 5 or 6 when I started playing on a team, and I put my boots on the shelf when I was 42. So I've been playing all my life. And to be honest, I have never given a rat's ass who my captain is, pardon my language, because it doesn't matter when you're on the pitch as a player. But, we as fans and the newspapers and for the manager, yeah, apparently it's a big thing. For me, it's just like at the moment you see Bruno, he gets to speak with the ref all the time. And I think this is a good thing because then we avoid yellow cards on Bruno all the time. So Bruno will probably be a good shout as a captain in that regard. But, we have leaders in the team, as Griffo mentioned. We have leaders. We have Casemiro. We have Martinez. We have Varane. We have a lot of good leaders. And I think when you're a younger kid, a younger player coming up, it's good to have leaders who can support you and carry you through all this, because it's hard, it's the pressure from the fans, everything. When you have a bad game, what are you doing? You need a hand on your shoulder and say, okay, kid, this is going to be okay. So but it doesn't need to be a captain to do that job. So just let Bruno keep the captaincy, and stripping Bruno of the captaincy in the summer, that wouldn't be good. So just let him keep it, is my opinion. And on the Garnacho number 7 shirt thing, I would just say one thing: Viva Garnacho! Here we go, here we go. Give him the number 7 shirt.
Everything Carpia said, Kane to United at all costs and captain. Well, maybe it's just me, but I'm not a fan of goalkeepers and strikers being a captain. Maybe it's just my little mindset thinking this, but I feel like for me is, as a captain, I want them to be present on the whole pitch, and I want, like, you look at a goalkeeper, they can only see so much. A striker can only see so much. A midfield defender, winger, blah, 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 blah. you can see everywhere on the pitch. They're tracking back, they're going forward, stuff like that. And I just think I want someone who can be everywhere rather than be stuck in a set position on the pitch. Maybe that's just my mindset, but I'm not a massive fan of strikers being a captain or a goalkeeper, which is why I would never give it to David De Gea, even though he's been at Manchester United for so long. And I know there is rumours, of course, that he could be leaving Manchester United too. But Boyce has said goalkeeper sees it all. But it's a massive pitch. What I mean is they won't be able to see as far back as the other goalkeeper in the respect very clearly. It does get what I mean, or am I just...
Sometimes De Gea can't even see a player in front of him, let alone our striker. So it's quite, I don't think he can quite see the striker. But going back to the point about signing Kane and making him captain, last time we signed somebody called Harry and gave him the captain's armband immediately. It ended badly. So I'll just leave that one here and to ponder over.
Thomas said a quality comment. Maguire sees the whole pitch from the bench. And Mad House has said De Gea can't see anything with Slappy in front of him. So we'll talk about goalkeepers now, because I know I briefly spoke about David De Gea, but David De Gea, so it's saying that terms have been agreed with De Gea according to the Telegraph, but both parties are unsure whether it will be signed. We are linked to two goalkeepers in particular, Onana, who a lot of people have been mentioning, and David Raya, But if, for instance, that could also play with FFP if, for instance, De Gea was to stay, of course, as well. So just wanted to get everyone's opinion on the situation with De Gea staying, going, goalkeeper. Is it really a priority if he stays? John, let's get your thoughts on that first of all.
I think this goes back to what we were talking about with respect to sort of, changing of the guard too quickly. I think David De Gea, my idealistic solution is that he does sign that new contract on reduced terms. And my idealistic hope is that he stays. And if we do sign a new keeper, I'd like to see him compete in that space, because who knows? Everybody writes off these players, especially for someone like David De Gea. If there's anybody in this team that deserves a chance, it's David De Gea. And I'd like to see another keeper come, but again, from David De Gea's perspective, he's not he's not old. I think sort of goalkeepers peak in those sort of early to mid 30s, if in my view personally. And for him, he still has lots of years of football left. So maybe from his perspective, he wants to further cement his sort of time at Man United, and then think about leaving. But for his perspective, if he's earning an X amount of money, probably one of the highest paid wages for a goalkeeper, and then all of a sudden that reduced thing comes all the way down here. It's like when when these, young kids from college, they graduate, they always ask you for opinion. And a lot of these like the career counselors tell you like, oh, don't settle on the lowest wages that they give you, because when you try to climb through that corporate space, it's so hard to do it. David De Gea, if he goes back down all the way down, it's going to be harder for him to, maybe find that next deal that's going to give him anything higher. And it's harder to find anything higher as you get older. But from David De Gea's perspective, money might be a big thing. Who knows? We don't know his personal life. I know that he's got a big venture with respect to his esports gaming thing. He's got a family he wants to make sure he continues to provide for in the best way that he can. So maybe his legacy might be a sort of a background thing at this point in time. He's already won a Premier League medal. People seem to forget, and multiple trophies at Man United. So that being said, I wouldn't be upset if he left, because he's looking out for what's in his best interest, and Manchester United at the end of the day will also be looking out for in our best interest at that point. But I'm more concerned about what we can do if he does leave. And this is, again, this whole thing I used to been preaching about, the health of Manchester United. If we were in a healthier position as a club, we wouldn't be in this sort of like friendly hostage situation. You know what I mean? Like, we need David De Gea to stay, but we're not going to pay him the same amount. He's not going to want to stay if he's not going to get the same amount. Like, we're in this weird hostage situation, and that comes out to health of the club. I'd like to see him stay, but if he doesn't stay, that's fine with me too. It hurts for me to say, because David De Gea has been one of my favorite players in forever. But again, It's just one of those situations where if Manchester United were in a healthier position, this would be much easier for us to handle.
I think Kate Cadet is right, though. I do think it is going to depend on how Manchester United is to play, because if we are going to play from the back, it isn't best for De Gea, but I do also think he isn't the best with his distribution. I've seen this video on Instagram and it just made me laugh where De Gea was here, Maguire was here, and instead De Gea kicked it out purposely. Like, I just found it so hilarious when I seen it, but I do agree with that. And Kay Slater said if De Gea stays, he will need to cut significantly. I realise that in the year United will replace him. If he wants money, go Saudi. There is it's a hard one because personally for me, we've already seen it here. Henderson's going to be going. He's going to Forest. So we are going to be left with just Tom Heaton. And Tom Heaton isn't someone who you are going to need to invest in. So De Gea, I've been very critical of David De Gea. I will hold my hands up. But I do look at goalkeepers who are currently available. I'd actually go in and just pay the 40 million for David Raya. I know a lot of people are saying Onana in the chat, but I've watched probably a handful of games of him, so I don't really want to say I want him or I don't. When I've watched probably 5 games of him at most, I think it'd be quite unfair to judge a player just based off 5 games. And I just think for me, it's a goalkeeper at the moment, regardless if, for instance, De Gea stays, De Gea goes, we're going to need it. Costa's been mentioned here in the chat as well. I'm not a fan of Costa. I'm not a massive fan of him whatsoever, but Jarvis, what would you do with De Gea's situation? Would he stay, go? Who would you take if he goes?
Yeah, when it comes to De Gea, I've been saying this all season. I want De Gea to go because I don't think he fit Ten Hag's style, and he can't play with the ball in his feet. But that's not his only issue. He can't clean crosses. He don't sweep. He's not precise on his goal kick, and I think, and he never commands his back line. So I think he has a lot of weaknesses, and his biggest attribute has always been shot stopping. But this season, he's averages 70% or something, and the best goalkeepers average is 77, 78, 79%. So he's basically declining, and I think we have seen the best of David De Gea, and I think it's time to move on. And when it comes to money, he's on a annual salary of 19.5 million pounds, and every year, and he's on a 6 years contract, so it's 170 million pounds, and he has enough money. So if he wants to stay and give it a chance, okay, you have to accept 200k a week. And that's not a bad shout. And if not, if he wants more money, because when you're on that amount of money, you have enough money for yourself, your family, your kids, and their grandkids, and their grandkids again, and they will be settled for 1,000 years. So basically, he should. And there's nothing wrong earning money, okay? But if that's all he wants, go to Saudi. Or stay in United for 200 and fight for your place. Show some kahunas.
This is the problem, though, and I do solely blame it there on Manchester United. Is David De Gea is on extremely high wages, and realistically, if you was a player, would you want to take a wage reduction? If your manager turned around and said, right, you're going from 375k a week to 200k a week, you would be happy. I wouldn't be happy personally, and some people would probably be happy, but that's when I do solely blame that onto the board there and go, you should never have given a goalkeeper such high wages, because you're looking at other goalkeepers in the league, Alisson and Ederson, for instance, they're not on them wages what David De Gea is on.
But from David De Gea's perspective, he's thinking he deserved that money. And let's be real, at that point in time, when he was just making unstoppable save after unstoppable save, literally saving Manchester United on an average, in my view, like 12 points a season, like that man was on a madness and he deserved it in his perspective. And from Manchester United's perspective, going back to the whole health conversation, if Manchester United had been signing good players, if Manchester United had been signing proper players consistently, keeping the health of the club sort of on a consistent basis, if that heart was pumping normally, then we wouldn't have been allocating that kind of resources on David De Gea. But everything else was shit in the bed so badly that at that point, from Manchester United's perspective, maybe in the board, they would have thought, oh, we need to secure some sort of superstar. And David De Gea was one of the world's best, if not the world's best in that moment in time. They're thinking, oh, we got to secure something here. Let's just give him whatever we can give him. Let's sign him, lock him down. It's like the conversation about Marcus Rashford right now. People are so upset that like there's no way Marcus Rashford should be on whatever the wages he's reported, whatever. First of all, he deserves those wages. And second of all, it's the club that offers him. It's not really the player's fault for feeling that way. You know what I mean? Yeah, if you want to think about it in this like beautiful, like roses like story about, you know, players and being loyalty and whatever, those days are gone. These players are looking out for themselves and themselves only. And there's nothing wrong with that at the end of the day if we're stripping down the details. You know what I mean? And I agree with you, Maisy, 100%. It's the club and their decision making. Whether he deserved to be on that contract or not, that's a different story. The fact of the matter is, you can give him that contract, but you better be ready for contingency plan A, B to Z. And we were not ready in that position. If we had a proper replacement, if we had all the takeover saga done, if we had all these other situations sorted, David De Gea could leave and we would all just be sitting here. Eric Ten Hag could be in Mallorca just vibing out, and then he gets a call saying he signed Costa or Onana or whoever it is. But we're in this position because of the health of the problem, the health of the club. And that's been the problem from the beginning.
Spot on. And to Ravi's point about Jordan Pickford, he isn't coming to Manchester United. It was just all paper talk, basically. He wants to stay at Everton, thankfully, for sure. But I do completely agree with what you have said, John. And that's when you do also look at and say, well, why did we do salary caps? Like, you look at good clubs here from what I've been hearing, Liverpool's apparently got a salary cap and they've recently broke it for Mohamed Salah. You can see Mohamed Salah why he's got the wages that he's got right now, and I completely agree. The players should feel like I should feel bad because I got 400k a week now. I don't think that's any fair whatsoever on the player, because if you're offering good wages, you're gonna take it. Realistically, anybody would. I would. Jarvis would. Griffo would. John would. The whole chat would. If you was get offered from 50k to 200k, you'd take it. Anybody realistically would.
Yeah, and people also kind of need to remember that Manchester United, whether you agree with me or not, it's a different position. But Manchester United, we've heard professional footballers talk about this. It's harder for clubs in Manchester, in Liverpool, in Newcastle to sign players than players in London or in Madrid or in Barcelona. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. I fucking love Manchester. That's my second home. I'm whenever I'm there, the people treat me like I'm their second son. Like, I love Manchester. But for players' perspective, it's harder for a club to sign a player to come to the city of Manchester. Whether you agree with him or not, that's a different point. It's a different kind of sort of pull that's required to bring them to a city like Manchester. If for example, like City, who has such a strong plan, the project is so clear as night and day, they win trebles, like whatever, they win trophies, whatever the fuck it is, that is a really easy sell. But if you're a club in this position, it's harder and harder and harder. That's why the health needs to be important. You know what I
mean? Yeah, I understand that. Case Slater said a very good point in the chat. You can't be paid for what they've done. You have to be paid for what they will do. And I think that's absolutely spot on. Willow has said, I just want the club sale to be over and Sheikh Jassim as the new owner. We all would absolutely love that. Honestly, we would absolutely love that. And Simon has said, we need to be careful signing keepers. We signed one last season and he didn't get one game, Tom Heaton. And I think for me, Tom Heaton was probably one of them. He was that kind of Lee Grant replacement, I personally thought, because Lee Grant at the end of his career at Manchester United was basically a fourth official. Like, he was holding the substitutes who was coming on as a sub option. So I think probably Tommy Eaton's just come here just to cover that gap. And if we had got the injuries, and then Butland, yeah, totally forgot about Jack Butland. I was there thinking about Tom Heaton, but yeah, Jack Butland, we didn't.
But like,
he didn't
but
even
Lee
get a game.
Grant, will always have an iconic moment of Manchester United and Remington when they asked him to hold the hair straightener in one of those photos, right? The man's bald. You know what I mean? Jack Butland, another example. Like, he was on the ad for Manchester United's training top, and he looks like a fucking snack. He looks so handsome. You know what I mean? Like, Manchester United, if we do get rid of David De Gea, we can't sign one keeper. We need to sign two. Manchester United, if we need to look for a striker, we let go of Vegas. If we do let go of Martial, we need to sign two strikers. We need a Kane or an Osimhen with a Rasmus Højlund. Manchester United need to make sure that we're improving our health. You can't run 10 minutes and then smoke a cigarette the next second and go, oh, I'm feeling better. That's not how you improve your health. You got to run consistently for 30 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, right? We got to improve. And it starts now. It sucks because it feels like, oh my God, this is turning out to be another season of oh my days. But hey, it's going to happen at some point. We might as well go through it now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we, for instance, what about, is it Kova from the academy? Could he
I was
be
thinking
someone
that.
who you fetch up?
I don't see why
Is
not.
he the small guy? 6'9", something. He's big.
Yeah,
It's like a giant.
Yep. And
But
didn't he
he-
just
he's
recently
good.
win the league at his loanee club?
Yeah, I think it was in Sparta Prague or something in Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
Somebody in the chat knows. Check it out. But we need goalkeepers, and I'm especially interested in hearing because I saw John. He had some analyze videos of Onana out. So and I think you're spot on because I've seen several of them, and you were on point, man. So tell us a little bit about Onana and why he would fit United.
I'm just gonna keep it short, but basically the reason why I like somebody like Onana is because people say that David De Gea, it's all about ball distribution, whatever, commanding his box, all these things. David De Gea's shot stopping is a 10 out of 10 when he's on it. You cannot get past him. But his ball distribution and his commanding of the box at times when it stinks is like a 4, if you will, just for a visualization sake, if we're putting numbers down. Onana's shot stopping might be a 7 or 8, whatever it is, but his commanding of the box, his distribution is also a 7 out of 8. He's a much more well-rounded, balanced keeper. Manchester United need to find that balanced keeper, and we need to reset that wage bill from a goalkeeper's perspective. If we're looking at a keeper, Onana is not a bad shout. I personally am not a big fan of players when they sort of show a little bit of, if you're looking at it from one angle, it kind of is like petulance, right? He resigned in the Cameroon national team because he and the manager didn't agree on the style of play, and he said, "I'm out." And whatever your thoughts are, I've heard in the past that him and Eric Ten Hag used to sort of, get a little choppy at times. I'm not a big fan of players like that, but hey, if Onana has been playing at Inter Milan, and with all due respect to Inter Milan and Serie A, if Eric Ten Hag comes calling and says, hey, we've had our whatever problems in the past, but I'm gonna give you a second chance to come play for one of the biggest clubs in the world. If I'm Onana, who now doesn't have to worry about AFCON duties in the middle of January, I'm thinking, Jesus Christ Almighty, I'm there. Yes, Captain. I'll fucking, you know what I mean? Like, I'm all for that. That ball distribution, the commanding of the box, as well as his decent shot stopping ability. It doesn't have to be a 10 out of 10. He's a much more well-rounded, balanced keeper. Like in that Champions League final, I talked about it in one of my videos. Ederson in the 90-something minute. That dude in the middle of like 12 bodies. I jumped in. I never played keeper. I played once in a tournament. I jumped in a 50-50 situation. I was scared for my life. I landed. I tore my shoulder. Ederson in a group of like 12 hunky-dory men jumped in there, grabbed the ball. He picked that thing out of there like a fucking apple out of a tree, and he just said, it's my ball. Other side, Onana is playing DM, distributing the ball in front of him. Bastoni looking for pinging passes to the Lukaku on his left and his right, Darmian. That's the kind of keeper you're looking for a little bit more so now than ever. And don't get me wrong, I still wouldn't mind David De Gea, I promise you. But if we're going to sign a keeper, Onana is a great shout.
Mm-hmm.
It's that 40 mil price tag as well. When I saw that, I thought that's in this modern market, that's a bargain. And you look around Europe and in fact the world, not many clubs are looking for goalkeepers at the moment. Chelsea probably not going to stick with Kepa, but City don't need one. Liverpool don't need one. Real Madrid don't need one. PSG don't need one if Donnarumma stays. Bayern Munich probably don't need one. And if they do, they'll probably get it from Dortmund like they usually do. But it's just no other team, top team, are really looking for a goalkeeper at the moment. That's a prime opportunity for us to go 40 mil, which I said I think is a bargain in this modern market, and get him in. And I said it in the stream we did on Wednesday or Tuesday, whatever. And I said that it seems to be like we've come to a natural conclusion with David De Gea. His contract's coming to an end. Thank you for all the services, but we're going in a different direction where we want to play more from the back, more attacking. You don't really suit that. So thank you for everything you've done. You've been a club legend. You'll always be a club legend. But it's time to leave. And I still think if he goes to the right team that play maybe slightly slower, maybe probably less from the back, I still think he can be a really, really, really top goalkeeper in Europe or in the world. But now with that 40 mil, everything seems to be, the stars are aligning in the goalkeeper position for me. And that's where we go and get Onana and move forward with that. And then can Dean Henderson use Kovar in the youth, develop him up to be a second choice? I don't have a problem with that. Tom Heaton is an experienced goalkeeper. Yeah, he's not the world's best, obviously, but he's a good goalkeeper to have in case of an emergency. And then even Keylor Navas on a two-year loan deal or something if we need a backup goalkeeper. There's probably a few keepers you can get on freeze or whatever this summer that could be good backups. So I just think the stars are aligned in this situation to go, thanks, David, for all you've done, but it's time to move on. 40 mil, not as much as we probably were thinking of paying for Onana. Get him in. It's one less position to worry about. Then we can worry about the outfield positions, the strikers, midfielders, maybe a few more defenders. Build that squad up and go. Because Onana, I don't know how old Onana is, but keepers can go until they're like 40, can't they? And still be in their prime because it's obviously not an outfield position and it's a completely different ball game. And I think he's still only young. He's like 27, 28, which is just 27. The very, very beginning of what a goalkeeper's prime probably should be. So it's just a perfect amalgamation of all the different situations that I don't think we can let up on, because next summer, who knows, for example, in a weird world, Alisson says, I want a different challenge, leaves Liverpool. What if Ederson says he wants a different challenge from City, leaves Liverpool? Then two of the top teams in the world, Liverpool and Man City, we're going to be looking for goalkeepers. They can snatch Onana because they're better at negotiating than us. Obviously, we might have different owners by then. We should have different owners by then. But yeah, while there's no many people in the market for a goalkeeper, why don't we snap up Onana for the 40 mil?
Yeah, that's great, Griffo. And you know, when you talk about 40 mil, Liverpool bought Alisson for, I think it was 65 or was it 70 million pounds from an Italian club. So basically 40 mil is a bargain. I don't think we will get him for 40 mil. I think we have to at least pay 50 to 55. But you know, he's definitely worth it in my mind. And then we can sing like the song, oh na na, what's his name? Oh na na, what the save. And you know,
that needs to be sang at Old Trafford. It really needs to be sang at Old Trafford without a doubt.
No, it does not. We are not doing that. We can come up with better. We are not doing Riri's song like that. We've got to do better than that. Come on.
But you taught me that song, so it's stuck in my mind.
We can wheel the piano out again and get Onana to play that on the piano.
No more pianos, no instruments. just tell him to come out, do a couple of kick ups, and say, "I love Man United. It's been a dream," and that's it. You don't got to do anything else. No, we don't want to see no pianos. The social media team needs to just tell him to hold the shirt. I am proud to be for Manchester United. And that's it. No pianos, none of that. I don't want to hear that.
No pianos, no bands or anything for John.
Big reveal.
Keep it plain and simple. But I do think though Navas would have been a great shout, by the way. Like, I think that was great for Tom to mention that, and especially with Navas, he actually made it into the Premier League. He actually did good in under Nottingham Forest, and I think in front of behind a much better defence, I think he'd do a lot better. Let's be real. So I'd actually take the risk on Navas alone, personally, in my opinion. But it's just a matter of, would he really want to be a number two as a loanee? It's kind of one of them. But before we do wrap up, I just wanted to get everyone's thoughts on Timber, because Timber has reportedly reached an agreement with Arsenal till 2028. A lot of people were wanting Timber at Manchester United as a backup centre back for Varane. So I just wanted to get everybody's thoughts on it as well regarding Timber. I think everyone was hoping it would probably be another Martinez situation, but I think right now, I don't personally think the centre back is the biggest priority. So I'm not overly fussed that Timber was to go to Arsenal personally. What's your thoughts, Jarvis?
Yeah, when from Ten Hag's perspective, it's a priority because last season we were basically back to Lindelof and Maguire, the Chuckle brothers, at the one point because both the Varane and Martinez got injuries. We won't experience that shit show again. So I think we need at least one center back, and that's Kim. But if we can't get Kim, Timber would be a great option. And then we will be back if we get Onana, Timber. Then we have Martinez, and Ten Hag has his old back line centrally again. But Timber, I haven't seen much from him. He's not too tall, but he's quick. He's good at the ball, on the ball. He can play right back, so he's versatile. Yeah, of course, I would take him, but I don't think he will come to us. I think he will go to Arsenal. So that's that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To Niall's point, it isn't a done deal yet for Timber. He's agreed personal terms, but the first bid was rejected, so it isn't a done deal as of yet. The latest from Fabrizio is that they're waiting on the second proposal to be submitted by Arsenal, which should be done this week. What's your thoughts as well, Griffo?
Yeah, I think Arsenal, they've got some really good centre-backs now, haven't they? Saliba, I'm a big fan of. Gabriel, I think, is really good. And I think Timber, they've got 3 really good centre-backs there. I think if we sign somebody like Kim Min-jae, then that's exactly what we've got. 3 really good centre-backs, Martinez, Varane, and of course Kim. So yeah, it's disappointing because he would have been good, because I think Varane is slowing down. He's still a very good centre back, but I think Varane is slowing down. So maybe you bring in somebody like Timber that can replace Varane when his legs get tired, because he can't go forever. But obviously that's looking unlikely now. So yeah, I agree with you, Maisy, when you said about the centre backs not being a priority position, because I look at it and I go, I actually consider Maguire a 5th choice, not a 4th choice, because you've got Martinez, we've got Varane, and then we've got Lindelof. And I would probably rather play Shaw at centre back and have Maisy at left back rather than Maguire. And
yeah,
I think we all want Maguire to go just for this whole charade to end and to maybe get a bit of money. Obviously not nowhere near 80 million like we got for him, and relieve the wage books and just move on. But he's not a player that is like, oh, we need an upgrade, because he's so far down in that pecking order. I don't think he's a big consideration on that regard. So I think in terms of centre-backs, that's probably the last position I would look for this summer. And then maybe if we get all the players we need, we get a midfielder, a goalkeeper, striker, then maybe centre-backs a priority next year. And, it's a completely different year, it's a completely different summer. Who knows which centre-backs are going to be the best in the world that we can probably go after. So yeah, it's frustrating, because a player like Kim or Timber that we've lost out to Bayern Munich and Arsenal respectively, I think would be good. I think would have been perfect to sort of slowly usher Varane out the team now as aging a little bit. But I'm not going to cry in a dark corner over this, because I think it's not the biggest here. Arsenal have benefited. It's a good bit of business for them, but I think that Man United, at the end of the day, I don't think we necessarily lose any sleep over it.
Mm-hmm. What was you going to say, John? Because I know you was going to mention something.
No, I was just going to say I'm crying. I'm already crying in the corner. We're not signing Kim Min-jae. I don't know. I know the situation right now is grim with respect to the whole new ownership, potential new ownership and whatnot. I think the idea of Manchester United having chased Kim Min-jae since January or however long it's been, and then to lose him like this, I think it's just, to me, it's disgraceful. I think
Yeah.
I'm not even just saying this as a Korean. I'm just saying this purely speaking from Manchester United's best interest in a player like Kim Min-jae, Serie A's best defender of the season. Like that boy can ball, and he could be the perfect natural replacement, both short term and long term, for somebody like Varane. I mean, just the idea of Bayern Munich just coming out of nowhere and saying, "Hey, we'll do this, whatever," and he's just like, "Cool, let's do it." Like, it hurts me a lot, but this transfer window already, it's only been open for what, a week, 2 weeks, however long it's been open. It's already shown me that Manchester United fans, at least from my perspective, we all need to realize that this is just all a part of the process, and we were all just very giddy up for being hopeful, as we should be, right? What's there in life without hope, right? But we also have to realize that the reality of it is this process, if there is going to be a process for the betterment of the future, it's going to take a long time. And I think, personally speaking, I wouldn't be surprised if we're in for a long summer and potentially another long season. If we don't offload our players and if we don't generate some sort of revenue right now, this is going to be a sucky one.
Mm-hmm. United till I die said, proper sad we might not get Kim. Everything Carpia said, United haven't lost Kim Min-jae. United can still get him.
We should take that carp that he has. That fucking carp is massive, and we'll just bring it to Kim Min-jae. He's in training right now. When he comes out, we'll just show him the carp. Be like, "Hey, we'll give you the carp. We got a bag of cash. Come on, let's go."
I thought it was Frank Lampard on the picture.
Nick has said in the chat, going back to what we was talking about, Kim Min-jae would make a good captain. I don't know about you, what you think about that, just because.
Jarvis, if you don't mind, I'll just say this real quickly. Kim, for me, a captain is not just about how good he is as a footballer. I think there's different applications and functions as a keeper. Some keepers are literally as a keeper because they are the mediator between the coach and the players, right? They deliver what needs to be tactically instructed on the pitch in the middle of the game. Some coaches, they don't even give a damn. The captains are there just because they have a big set of balls. For me, I'm more so the idea that captains are players that people look up to when you're especially in a dire need of inspiration. Somebody that can speak, somebody that can motivate, somebody that can inspire a group of boys, a group of men. And Kim Min-jae could be that. I've seen him do that for the South Korean players. He is an inspiration. We've also seen Paul Pogba do that for the French national team. You need to be able to drive and motivate. I think somebody that can probably do that for Manchester United, if there are any, could be somebody like Marcus Rashford. That could be a Luke Shaw even. I don't mind Bruno Fernandes either. Don't get me wrong, but like I said before, I see him more as like a vice president role, vice captain role. So I don't know. I'm not even thinking about could he be a good captain. I'm thinking, can we bring him to Manchester United? You know what I mean? Like, wow.
Yeah, that's the main thing. If we can get him more than anything. But with that, we will wrap it up. Thank you, Jarvis, Griffo, John, for all coming on. It's been a great show, great discussion as always. Jarvis, would you like to shout out your socials?
Yeah, you can find me on MUFC Realist TV, and you can find me on Nuruddin's channel, the Therapy Army, United Real Therapy, and you can find me on Twitter, Bowley77, BOLE77.
Thank you so much, Jarvis. It's been a pleasure. Griffo, thank you for coming on as well. Would you like to shout out your socials?
Yeah, it's just at Charlie Griffo1 on Twitter, and I'll also give a mention to the website United Flying High. That's where the majority of the Man United news is, where I can get on and post some stuff on there, so keep an eye out for that. And of course, Pig's various socials to any promotions and links there.
Absolutely. And John, thank you as well for coming on. Would you like to shout out your socials?
Yeah, if you guys want to join me, I chat nonsense like this every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and drop content every day. I'm on YouTube as well as all the other socials. You can find me on @GoodVibesJohn. And thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you all. If anyone wants to check me out, my YouTube channel is Devils United. Big shout out to people who's watched today. Thank you, Kay Slater. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Steve. Thank you to Avenger, Madhouse. Thank you very much. Thank you as well to Ravet. thank you to United Till I Die. I'll also send the wishes to Flying Pig, and we'll end it off with that great hashtag there from Duncan, Blazers out, which we are all wanting to do. So thank you all very, very much for watching. Take care all. Have a nice evening. Bye bye.
Peace.